Welcome to Stuff and Whiskey. I'm Erin.
I'm Josh, and today we are talking about the most important thing when you are thinking about purchasing a bottle of bourbon, rye, whiskey, anything like that. We're going to get into it. This came from a viewer, somebody that left something in the comments that was a great question. We're going to follow that up with what we feel like is the single most important thing when purchasing a bottle. For each of us, it differs, and neither of our most important things are on this list that was in question. So it's going to be a very interesting one. Hopefully you glean some value out of it. We think it's going to be a good discussion. And we think if you're out there thinking about what you're going to be purchasing, if you keep the things that we talk about here in mind, it's going to help you a lot. So let's get into it.
Okay.
Brad Stuckley is the person that left this comment. Thank you so much, Brad. He had a preface with some very kind words, which we thank him for. And then he said he thought this question could lead to some interesting discussion. So he said, as a consumer, how would you rank the following in terms of what matters most to you when purchasing a bottle? Cask strength or barrel proof? Single barrel? Is it finished or not? How old is it? The age? Bottled in bond? Or small batch? And small batch?
So, and I think the important part is the last part of his sentence, of his question too. He said, as he's someone who's newer to whiskey, he'd love to hear our thoughts on which of those terms convey quality and desirability to us.
Yeah.
Which is important.
And which terms don't mean as much.
And which terms don't mean as much.
Great question, great topic. Yeah. And this really could lead you, like this single video, we're going to try to make it information rich enough to, if you watch this and then you go into a store and you're looking at the shelves and you're like, goodness, there's so many bottles and they all say different things on them. What's marketing hype? What's just fluff? What doesn't even matter that they're using on the label to try to sell it? And what actually does matter that you do need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
So with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. And we'll just go category by category versus what Brad asked. It's easier to kind of talk about it in those terms.
Okay.
So again, we're going to cover his 6, and then we're going to talk about the things that matter to us, which are not on his list, interestingly enough. And I think that makes this very fun.
Well, there's a reason. I have a theory as to the reason why.
Okay. And we have example bottles that we're going to pull out for our 2 favorites. So that will lead to some good discussion as well. So let's go ahead and start off. When you're purchasing a bottle, in terms of conveying quality and desirability, how much does cask strength or barrel proof matter to you?
So to me, after having tasted a bunch of bourbon, I had to go through this journey of tasting a bunch of bourbon. To me, I would feel like that's pretty important. That is something I would be like, ooh, cask strength. I probably will like that. Because I know that about myself. If I had never tried very much whiskey, that's where I don't know. Yeah. So my answer now is cask strength. To me, cask strength or barrel proof is something I actually do know I enjoy. So I do look for that. So, and I do expect a level of quality from that designation.
Right. And that's what I was going to say. So for us, having tasted a bunch of whiskey and being fairly seasoned veterans, Brad said he's fairly new to whiskey. It matters if you like cask strength, barrel proof bourbon and whiskey or not. If you really like it, to me, for desirability, that is a very high mark. But if if you taste a bunch of stuff and you aren't accustomed to cask strength, that could make desirability low. Right. Actually, it could tell you to steer clear. So you have to think about where you're at within the scope of your personal experience and your personal preferences. Now, just because it's barrel proof or cask strength doesn't mean it's quality. There's good cask strength barrel proof stuff out there, and there's bad. And there is same for lower proof stuff. But
to me, I do have that expectation that it will be quality more so than some of these other terms.
Yeah, I feel you there. Like,
not saying it is, but that's my expectation.
I feel you. If it's not quality at cask strength, don't release it at cask strength.
Yeah.
Cut it. Yeah. Figure out the best proof point for it. So that is kind of how we do feel. But seeing cask strength on something makes it more desirable to me. But I never think that means quality, at least in my head.
Okay.
So let's move on to the next thing. Single barrel. What do you think about that?
I like single barrels. For me, that's not like a marker of quality or desirability. I think you enjoy the single barrels more than I do. Not saying I don't enjoy them, but like you enjoy the specialness of different single barrels. So that might be a little higher for you than for me, perhaps.
Yeah, and I will say that there are products on the shelf like Four Roses single barrel, 100 proof, and now they're coming out with these different it used to be just a single recipe. Now there are multiple different recipes, and there are eventually going to be all the recipes out there. Those single barrels don't matter to me as much. Henry McKenna single barrel, those things don't matter to me as much. The single barrels that I like the most and that are the most desirable to me are ones that are single barrel picks, like what we do, like what other channels here do, like what local stores do. That's the thing I like. I don't want just a single barrel for the sake of being a single barrel. I want a single barrel that's been vetted by someone's palate that I trust, and we'll get into that a little bit more later.
Okay.
That's called foreshadowing. But just a standard single barrel on the shelf that nobody picked, it's just a product that's out there. It's not a pro or con for me. It's a matter of whether I like the whiskey in the bottle or not. Going to skip down to small batch because that ties right into single barrel.
Okay.
And
kind of the same thing.
It's fair to say that, like single barrel and small batch, they don't make things more desirable or less desirable to us. It's really all about the whiskey in the bottle.
Yeah.
You will probably get slightly more consistency out of something that says small batch on the label than single barrel.
Because more bottles have been made from that batch.
But most distilleries, for instance, Four Roses, small batch versus single barrel, you're getting a little bit more proof with their single barrel, but the flavor profile will be a little different. Single barrel to single barrel versus the small batch will be a little bit more consistent.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, neither of those things really matter. They're technically not even terms that are recognized by the TTB and the authorities that be out there. So they're more marketing than anything. I just look at single barrels as a little bit more flavor drift, and you can expect that, and that's kind of fun, but it could be a gamble. Whereas small batch is a little bit more consistent. You can feel a little bit more safe spending your money if you're trying to be frugal. Let's move on to things being finished.
Okay.
How do you feel about things being finished?
So I like trying finished things. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to like it. So for me, finishing is desirable just because I want to see if it's finished well. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be finished well. That's just more of like where I play in whiskey is like trying finished things. Because there's some really good finished things and there's some really bad finished things. So I don't think for me it means it's more desirable because it's better whiskey. For me, it makes it more desirable because that's where I find the fun in trying all the whiskeys. If that makes sense.
It's a marker of desirability for you because it could be different, but you're saying it's not a marker of quality.
Correct.
I would say that when it comes to rye whiskeys, things being finished in rye whiskeys, like rye whiskeys being finished, I guess is the right way to say that, that makes it more desirable to me because I know just from a personal experience, I tend to like rye whiskeys that are finished more than unfinished ryes. However, in bourbons being finished make them less desirable to me because I know I don't tend to like finished bourbons as much as I like straight bourbons. However, there are exceptions to all these rules. We've picked finished bourbons before that have been amazing, and we've had barrel picks that have been amazing. We've also tasted finished ryes that weren't anywhere near as good as some of the straight ryes we've had. So not a marker of quality whatsoever, but I will say that I am far more skeptical of finished bourbons than I am of finished ryes. Also, maybe this is a good point to interject. I've mentioned picks and barrel picks, and I do know that some people don't know what those phrases mean. We do picks, local stores do picks. All it means is that they go to a distillery, taste a variety of barrels, and find ones that fit their palate, and they put their stamp of approval on them.
And get them bottled, and then make them available.
Right. So local stores do it on a local level. We, with a channel, we go to distilleries, and we, like this week, of the filming of this, not of the release, but we're going to Jack Daniel's and we're picking a barrel-proof Tennessee whiskey and a barrel-proof rye. We're going to taste a variety of barrels. We're going to see which ones appeal the most to our palates. And then we're going to select those, and they'll go through distribution and an online retailer, and then they can be available to you guys watching this channel, or more specifically to our Patreon membership. And the only reason we get to do barrel picks is because of our support from our Patreon membership. So if you want to get plugged in on that and want to get some of the barrels that we go and put our stamp of approval on and make available.
Or potentially come on a pick with us, because we do pick our patrons to come on barrel pick with us.
Some of the upper tiers do get that benefit. So you can check all that out over on Patreon, as well as get plugged into our community. Kind of going back to the barrel proof point, if you haven't had a lot of barrel proof whiskey, you get plugged into our community over on Discord through Patreon, and you can do sample swaps. You can try some whiskey types you maybe never have tried before or have very limited experience with. And that's a great way of expanding your palate without having to go out there and spend a bunch of money on a bunch of bottles.
Yeah.
And you get to build relationships within the community that way as well. So it's really wonderful. And we have an awesome community that supports that.
We do.
So incredible stuff. Let's get back to the list.
Okay.
And let's go with age.
Okay. That is, to me, the biggest shocker of my whiskey journey is that I feel like age is way oversold. I've had some incredible whiskeys that are fairly young, and I've had some not great whiskeys that are old. Actually, some of them, the older they get, to me, I don't like them. Yeah. So for me, age honestly doesn't even matter anymore. Like I don't.
Yeah.
It is not a factor for me at all. Because it's not a factor. And I only learned that after tasting a bunch of things. So if you're newer to the hobby, I don't think you'll know what you like and what you don't like until you try things. And then these terms you'll have your own ranking for them. But I don't think across the board, any of them will mean anything to you until you've tried things and know what your palate likes.
Yeah. So to the question, what conveys quality and desirability? Age doesn't convey either of those. To me, I know where I tend to like things. Like I like a bourbon in that 8 to 12 year range. I like a rye in that 7 to 12 year range. But there are definitely plenty of bottles out there that are way outside that scope by a lot, both high and low that I like, and both high and low that I don't like. Yeah. So I don't put a lot of stock in age. And
I think age is, for me, the biggest misnomer. Because people are like, on paper, they're like, oh my gosh, I want that 18-year whatever. And sometimes you can try it and you're like, oh, this is not good. Like, age doesn't across the board mean good.
I'll tell you why. Here's why. Age does convey price. You have to pay for all that time that whiskey spent in the barrel.
Yeah.
So oftentimes higher age statements come with higher price tags, which does seemingly convey more quality. And price wasn't on Brad's list, but age or price do not convey quality.
Correct.
So, yeah.
Correct.
Last one on Brad's list, bottled and bond. That means it's 100 proof from a federally aged in a federally bonded warehouse, and it has been bottled within the same distillation season. So like January to June or July to December from a certain year. So it's got to be at least 4 years old from one of those two seasons in a federally bonded warehouse. It is specifically put in place a long time ago, and Colonel E.H. Taylor helped get all this in place with the government to ensure a certain level of quality, because back then people were putting like tobacco spit and like all kinds of stuff, molasses and whatnot in their whiskey to cut it and make it go further and things like that. So the bottled and bond law did make whiskey have to stick to some very strict quality control standards, and it made the whiskey industry better.
Yeah.
But
so,
nowadays, how do you feel about it?
Nowadays, I feel like it's strictly a marketing term because the whiskey industry is better because of that ruling, thankfully. That term is now kind of marketing. And so to me, it doesn't convey any, I don't care. Bottled and bond, great. Not bottled and bond, great. I don't think about it.
I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree. When I see bottle and bond on a label, all it indicates to me is that it's at least 4 years old and it's 100 proof. And that's it.
Right.
It doesn't convey any level of quality at all.
It just gives you a little bit about proof and age.
Yeah. So as far as I'm concerned, it's might as well be single barrel and small batch, to the point of it being a marketing term. It does mean a little bit more than those things. But here's the thing. Single barrels and small batches can be higher than 100 proof, which I tend to like. So oftentimes when I see bottled and bond, I think, man, it's only 100 proof. I just prefer more proof. So to me, honestly, it almost makes things less desirable because I immediately know that it's only 100 proof.
So bottled and bond, they're always 100 proof.
Yes,
they're not
has
at least,
to be.
Okay.
It has to be 100 proof.
So if you are someone who knows you like around the 98, 100, 101 proof, that's your sweet spot. I feel like someone like that, bottled and bond, would actually be a term that you would look for.
Great point.
Necessarily we don't look for it, or really, I don't think anything of it. But if that's your sweet spot, that's a good term for you to look for. Right,
because then you know the proof is right, and you know it's at least got 4 years of age, which then that becomes a good marker of it's at least probably fairly mature. Let's get into our things before this goes too long.
Well, I just want to reiterate, all these terms, this is important.
Yeah, go ahead.
All these terms only mean something to you after you've been able to experience some of the things, so you know what you like. So there are terms that mean more to us than they might mean to you, and vice versa. So
good point. What's more important than these terms if you're new to whiskey is just trying to experience the most different things that you can to see what your palate likes.
Yes.
So let's get into what matters to us being into whiskey for so long, having a channel for 4 years, but you've been into whiskey for like a decade. I've been in it for like 2 decades.
Yeah.
What matters the most to you when you're buying bottles?
To me, I'm a value girl. I'm a value shopper.
Which, to be specific, in our minds, value means quality compared to price.
Yes, not cheap, but like if the quality's there, I will pay up for a product. But these are two examples of what I feel like are good quality products according to what my palate likes. So this is Wild Turkey Rare Breed, which is in our market, what is it, 55?
50 bucks.
Yeah. And then this is Hard Truth High Road Rye, which this is like
45 bucks.
Yeah, $40. And to me, the juice in these bottles is way better than the price I'm paying for it. So these are value buys, and I love them.
Yeah, so you got a low proof rye, a higher proof bourbon.
Yeah, this is low proof, and this is high proof. So I can be all over the spectrum with proof. Yeah. But if the flavor is in my sweet spot, love it.
So what I want to highlight is you've tasted plenty of things that have blown you away that have been $300 or more, but that's not on your radar of buying because you don't want to pay that much.
Correct.
And you've also had things that are $15 that seemingly very high value, but you didn't really like the flavor all that much. So $15 spent on something that you don't love is $15 wasted.
Yeah.
When you could just spend a little bit more and get something you like.
Correct.
But you learned all this through experience.
Yes.
For me, the number one thing is trust. And this is why barrel picks are so big to me. That's why we started doing barrel picks, because we have a catalog of content here that you can watch and learn our palates and what we prefer. And then if we pick something that you can trust that we like it, and we've tried some of the best whiskey ever bottled all the way down to the most budget stuff. We know what we like, we know what we don't. So when we go to pick barrels, we're picking barrels that we know are good, so you can get our barrel picks knowing that they're like, we're good enough, like it's good enough for us to put our name behind it. Yeah. We don't just pick things to pick things.
And that's across the board with like any YouTube channel you follow or any store that does picks. If you know who's picking the bottles from the store. Right. If you know their palate.
So I have some Nashville Barrel Company single barrels here that I want to talk about. And they're single barrels, but they're also barrel picks. They've been selected by specific people. Yeah. And this is why I want to talk about them. Right here is one of our picks. Okay. It's from our 2024 annual get-together. We're going to do another one at the 2025 annual get-together for our Patreon community. We're also picking another bourbon as of the recording of this tomorrow at Nashville Barrel Company. So they have awesome stuff, and we're picking it so we know it's good. My trust level that I'm picking a barrel that I like is 100%. Yes. Because if I don't like it 100% enough to pick it, we're not picking it. Right. We have to like it. I want to highlight a couple of other things. Palates I trust. So, for instance, this bottle right here it says Simpson, Davenport, and Hines. One of these people, Simpson, is an employee at Nashville Barrel Company. Davenport and Hines are the two owners of Nashville Barrel Company. When I see their names on bottles, I buy them because I know they don't put their names on bad bottles. Yeah. Both of these bottles are $130 bottles. That's a lot of money for a bottle of whiskey, but I have a lot of trust that I can purchase that bottle, like this one right here, without ever having tasted it, and I know it's good because their names are on it. Now, this one right here is a Club Marzipan 2024 pick from Fred Minnick. Here's the thing. I don't buy Fred's picks. Love Fred Minnick, but his palate and my palate are way different 90% of the time. There's like a 10% overlap where I like stuff that Fred likes and he likes stuff that I like, but he likes a lot of stuff that I don't like, and I like a lot of stuff that he doesn't like. The only reason I bought this bottle for $130 was because it was part of the barrels on the pick for this bottle, and we selected this bottle and another bottle as our 1 and 2, but I also really liked this one. It was our third place from the pick, and I remembered the barrel number 3352. And then when I saw that Fred picked it, I bought a bottle. But if Fred picked it and I hadn't tried it, I wouldn't buy it because I don't trust Fred's palate. Not that I don't trust his opinion or think it's wrong, because everybody's palates are different. I just don't line up with his palate. This is why barrel picks are the best. Your money is so much more safe in a barrel pick than a random bottle on the shelf. Even if Whiskey Tube tells you it's good, even if we say High Road Rye is good, we're picking a single barrel. There's no chance of flavor drift. There's no chance of the next batch of Hard Truth High Road Rye tasting different from this batch or Rare Breed. It's a single barrel. It's money easily and safely spent.
Okay.
Last up.
You got a lot of whiskey up here, man.
Last up, this is a group. So we have one we picked.
Yep.
We have one from palates I trust. We have one from a palate I don't align with, but I got to taste it, so I purchased it. And then this one right here is an NBC pick that I don't even know who these people are that picked it. I would never have bought this bottle ever, but I got to try it first and absolutely loved it. So then that's another scenario. Like if I didn't pick it or wasn't part of the process, if it's not from somebody I trust, or if it's even somebody I don't trust, you know, typically I wouldn't buy Fred's picks, but I went against the grain on this one and got it because I know I liked it. I have to be able to try it. So this is, to me, it's all about trust because I don't want to just throw my money away. I'm happy spending more money on a bottle out of a barrel. If it means spending $130 for a bottle, fine with that. But I got to be able to trust it. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Hopefully, you know, leave down in the comments below. Let us know what your single most important thing is when purchasing a bottle of whiskey. And give this video a like, a thumbs up if you liked it. And think about subscribing to the channel if you like this style of conversational content. We do it all the time over here. Every Tuesday, we're talking about something.
Something. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Cheers.
Cheers. You didn't say be good to each other.
I forgot.
Be good to each other.
Be good. Yeah. Be good and do good. Okay? Thanks. Bye.